Clap.
Not that I know of.
Welcome to Resting Pitch Face. Will that have been caught?
Yep.
Good. So, can organic content still hold its own against the dominance of paid ads?
Yes.
End of episode. So, organic and paid, really. Give me a 2 pence.
Yeah.
I'll start getting rid of these dog hairs.
I think the days of over-reliance on paid are coming to an end. I think.
What do you mean by coming to an end? Do you actually see an end? Or do you just see it sort of whittling down to a point? That's the I'm doing this inverted commas for anyone who's listening, not watching. That's the end.
I don't think I'm not saying it's the end of the
forever
channel. But there's always been, because Google push it so much in the context of Google, but even like Facebook to a lesser extent and other platforms, there's been an over-reliance.
And continues to be.
And I think what's happening now is data's becoming commoditized. So proving, for example, not running paid on brand is becoming a argument you can't ignore. So Google would still, if you approach them now, make the recommendation that you run paid on brand.
Yeah.
For many reasons that they would spin out.
Yeah.
Competitors.
Yeah. Protection. Yeah.
Brand protection, this kind of stuff. However, your organic performance should pick up all your brand. So I think the decline in over-reliance is coming to an end. I don't think it will ever be a situation where you don't run paid. And I think what's happening is, because the user journey has changed in terms of touch points, the value of content across as many different places as you can afford to deliver content is just going to become more and more valuable.
So obviously, this brings us to something you shared with me on LinkedIn just yesterday about, well, AI in particular. So, yeah, the context of this post was, I guess it's more real estate now, for brand presence and ownership, really, of that real estate. And the specific sort of message or thought-provoking message on that post for me was, when are ads coming into these
generative AI tools?
Yeah, which is, it's almost like eye roll as well.
I don't know whether Perplexity has ads already or not, which is like the leading AI search.
Do you think they will, just based on blueprint of what you've seen before?
I think it would probably be quite difficult for them to avoid doing it. Let's take the three leading Gen AI platforms, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude. Their model is a subscription model. Can they scale just on a subscription model? I don't know.
Is it like Netflix? Subscription model and then bringing in ads?
I think the only way that they're going to be able to do it is if you've got the structure that they've got in place at the moment, where they've got a free tier and then a paid tier, then an enterprise tier. The ads would probably be the free tier.
Yeah.
That's probably the way that I see it going. And ChatGPT in particular have you turned on being a not-for-profit to being a profit.
Yeah.
But what I will say is these Gen AI tools and large language models are language-based models.
Yeah.
So for me, you're probably going to want to focus on making sure that they are understanding your brand and your content as much.
Yeah.
Like the product doesn't exist to serve ads there now anyway. And when it does, it's going to be on off.
Yeah.
If you choose to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas my attention would be making sure that when people are using those tools and they're trying to seek information, which is generally probably more depth on those platforms, certainly at the moment.
Yeah.
That you're being thrown out as a result and you're being associated with the right things, which comes down to semantics. It comes down to depth of content, which is why I also think SEO and content are going to see exponential growth in the next 12, 18 months because these platforms are still in their infancy. I mean, the rate in which they're developing is phenomenal. However, agencies are going to be in a unique position because it's a new market to use existing skills based on understanding to capitalize on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So now is the time.
I think if you're not paying attention to it now, you should be. And also, I think the SEO agencies that are doing things properly have already got an advantage.
Already catering. How many conversations, I should flip this, how many conversations are we in where we are not asked about AI now?
Every conversation I have.
Yeah.
Literally every conversation I have. And it should be like that. This is probably the biggest technological shift that we've seen since probably the creation of the internet.
Yeah.
I would say. It's like it's as impactful as like the printing press.
Yeah.
It's a complete shift from an economy that in certain places is designed around industry to a pure digital global economy. It commoditizes information. It increases productivity. The capabilities are ridiculous. And it makes the world even smaller than it already is.
Based on the fact that we both acknowledge there that every client and new biz conversation, we are being asked about our opinion or our experience so far or how our proposition is shaped around AI overviews, etc., from a search perspective. Do you think that signals that how you've just described it there in terms of its magnitude of a shift? Do you think everyone's tuned into that then? Is that why we're being asked these questions, or is it coming from elsewhere where these people are?
I think
questioning it.
The UK in isolation, I think probably 5% of the population are aware of it.
Yeah, I guess we're in it, aren't we, as well? With the position, what we do.
I think we're probably at the forefront of it. I mean, I use the same line whenever I get asked about it. I was on the beta of ChatGPT. I was integrating it into stuff in 2020.
Yeah.
That's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
As far as understanding capability in our context goes, I'm pretty well versed.
Yeah.
I think how that translates from a marketing perspective is it's a necessity. It's going to continue to be a necessity. And I think what comes with the people that do knowing is education of the people that don't know.
I was going to ask you that. What would you advise to people who don't know. I mean, that's simplifying it massively, but is it up to people like you within your circles and then wider circles to that to put your hand up and educate?
I think so.
And demonstrate.
I think it also comes down to, because it's such a powerful shift, it's also, I think there'll be apprehension and fear around it, whereas that's not going to pay you off long term. I think you need to get your hands dirty. And the way that I would sum it up generally and really broadly in 2025 is, if you're in a service-based industry or your output is digital in your role day to day, like a joiner, for example, doesn't need to focus on being an AI master.
Yeah.
They might benefit from some awareness of it. Maybe they dive in there and try and build a brand using AI. Maybe that would benefit them if it's a one-man band. Maybe there's things like that. But I'm talking about people whose output are digital. If you're not coming to sit down to deliver a task and thinking, can I make this more efficient with AI, you're already behind.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a start, but I get where you're coming from. Do you think people who are not as relative this, but not as tuned into it, not sort of aware of it, do you think it's firstly sort of, I'm thinking of like awareness here, universally enough, like there's enough awareness for people, pockets of people who might not immediately have it shoved in their face? I mean, as I said, you've effectively led the charge for Flaunt because you've been in it for years now and brought it into business as usual, really, for us now. But those people who aren't in that position, just by nature of maybe what you said there, they're not digitally focused or in it for, their day to day. Like, is there enough awareness? Is there enough awareness that it's sweeping everybody up onto that same journey, relative to where you are on your journey, be it the joiner that you use there? Is there enough?
No.
Sort of, as I said, universally.
No, I don't think there is enough awareness. I think in public conversation, if you were to say, do you know what AI is, people would probably go, it's a chatbot.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's going to impact pretty much every industry in some way, shape or form. And you've got the government have been aware of it for a long time. And Keir Starmer came out only 2 weeks ago, I think, with the plan to make the UK an AI superpower. That act alone will push the conversation into cohorts that perhaps aren't exposed to it as much.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think the government needs to do a better job of making the public aware of what it is and how it's going to impact the economy. I mean, one of the biggest opportunities, in my opinion, in the UK alone for AI is the NHS.
I'm going to say about it's healthcare.
It's been on its arse for a long, long time. The efficiencies and the capabilities, it blows my mind. It could, if we do it properly and we actually forcefully invest in integrating AI systems into the NHS, it will save the NHS. It's got that power.
Yeah.
Similarly, Keir Starmer's talking about making the UK an AI superpower. The other thing that I think it needs to be applied to is energy. If we can use AI to make energy more cost effective, that means that we might, and that's a big might, be able to unlock the capability of running a data center in the UK. And if he's wanting to become a central hub, or however he wants to describe it, you're going to have to lure or empower companies to be created. And at the moment, we don't have the capability of even running a data center in this country because the cost of running a data center is too high.
Yeah. And also what you said there was the government, and my question is, are the government well placed enough, if that's the phrase, to be leading the charge from a knowledge, from a practice what you preach?
No, but I think they have the capability and the reach to change that quite quickly.
Yeah, the reach. But they need to be fully partnered up with knowledge from elsewhere to be able to lead that charge. Is there any part of you that thinks that people are, I'm going to say, ignoring it? I know we haven't positioned it like this in how we've chatted about it so far, but people are ignoring it by the way of they think it's not here to stay.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it happens, doesn't it? Socially and in our DNA, we don't like change.
Yeah, I'm going to say that. Yeah.
And certainly in the UK, I think the general opinion is quite stoic.
Yeah, it's this new fad that's going to be passing.
Whereas America have committed, I don't even know, I think it was 500 billion to just AI. And you look at the growth that happened in America last year alone and what was generated just off tech and AI eclipses anything that we've done.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we should be comparing, but you need to put your money where your mouth is. And since we left the EU, we haven't decided what our position is. You've got all these other places, like our tax, highest in the world. We've got friction against people coming into the country to work. You've got absolutely tens of thousands of millionaires leaving the country. What the government seem to lack is the foresight of the decisions that they're making for short term are going to have much worse long-term implications. Like the amount of people, the amount of millionaires that have left the country, I guess the general population would assume that that's a good thing because that's how we view people that are successful. Whereas that 10,000, that cohort of 10,000 millionaires are probably the people that would be involved in or generate more wealth for the economy than, I don't know, 70% of the rest of the population.
Yeah, it's value back, isn't it?
But anyway, we're getting political.
We are, and I'll bring it back to our line of work. We've obviously mentioned from an AI perspective that it's coming up in 100% of our conversations. Do you think we'll get to a point, and if so, when, where, let's say, an SEO brief or a search brief lands on our desk, and AI isn't just a part of it, but AI is at the front of it, at the top of it, almost like the leader of like search in an AI world, for example, as the headline of the brief? Because I think, correct me if, well, disagree with me if you do, I'd say it's coming up in every conversation, but it's like it's a checking in tick box to some extent, not for everyone. We go quite deep with some people, but others are like, oh, what do you think about AI? Or do you know what I mean? It's not at the core, or it's not at the forefront of, say, a brief or a conversation. So do you think we'll get to a point where we are having those conversations that is like AI-led search or search in an AI world, and all around that as the sort of leading arm of a brief?
I don't think Google's market share will ever drop below 50%. And I think that will take probably 10 years, just based on the dominance. Yeah. So I don't think it will be AI-led. The requirement to discuss it will become more prevalent, but we're already discussing it, and we're already talking around how we increase generative presence.
Yeah.
And how we optimize for generative AI. Yeah. And make sure that, like I said before, it's sort of the way that we do things lends itself to that anyway. It's just, it wasn't there 18 months ago. It's there now. Reporting on it and tracking and showing the value. And it's like people are complaining about their organic share declining in Google. Well, yeah. How many competitors are entering the market? Look at your tracking, look at your data and think, right, well, yeah, there's reasons around that, and people are like, oh, Google's losing it don't work anymore. Google's still a fucking amazing product, and it's still got a ridiculous amount of dominance. It's just there's other things in the market that weren't there before.
What's your favourite out of Gemini, Claude?
I use them for different things. Gemini's advantage at the moment is that it links in with Workspace for me. So it works with Sheets, Slides,
Google Meet, which is very useful.
And I think that needs to be Google's superpower with it, because that is a huge. It's like they've got a user base. I don't know how many businesses, how many users they've got across Google Workspace, but it makes perfect sense for me to absolutely double down on the integration. And it's not where it needs to be for me. It still doesn't answer questions that I have of it. But that's where I find Gemini the most useful. Then I also use ChatGPT. I feel like ChatGPT is still leading in terms of feature and usability. And I think that'll only become more important this year when we see agents cropping up, because that'll be more autonomy. And then I use Claude for writing, because Claude's really, really good for nailing tone of voice and ideation and just refining copy. And the whole spread of products still comes back to my initial thoughts on, can it increase my efficiency?
Yeah.
If it can, great. And is it going to improve my craft, as in my output? Yes, great. And that's why marketing specialists that are in front of it or are sort of surfing the wave are going to become more valuable, because you're going to be in a position where you can focus on the craft, which is what's going to be a requirement to cut through the noise. And from a business perspective, we've spent the last 20 years working for Google. The industry has ways of costing that. The industry has an approach for that. The industry knows that well. And also, on the flip side of that, the clients all know the same thing.
Yeah.
You say then, how do we improve our search presence across generative AI, generative tools? That's an outcome-based cost approach.
Yeah.
Because the mechanics are not standardized. So from a business perspective, if you're an agency and you're well positioned to deliver a service that does that, you can charge an outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think some agencies, like you said about, we're already doing it to some extent, set up, do you think some agencies will be found out?
I think some agencies will miss the opportunity by just letting it fall into BAU.
Yeah.
When it's not BAU at all.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to capitalize on presence and get increased generative presence is hard. And it should be charged as such.
Yeah.
Which is where I think making efficiencies is going to improve the craft.
Yeah. So to summarise then, I know we didn't really focus too much on paid ads, but if you're listening to this and it's all very new and overwhelming and whatnot, would you say speak to your agency? Ask them what they're seeing, what they're doing. Obviously speak to us, but let's be.
Definitely have conversations. Have as many conversations as you can about it with as many different people as you can. Because there's more perspectives are going to validate. But you've got to think about the outcome that you're looking for. Like, what's your expectation here? Are you an e-com brand thinking that you need generative presence because it's going to sell you more product? And is that the right question to be asking?
Yeah.
Or are you thinking we need to look and start thinking about our generative presence because it's going to play a role in increasing our brand, which by proxy is going to increase sales?
And that's where I think you need to speak to multiple people.
Yeah.
And gather your own bank of what you're hearing and what you're seeing.
Super difficult to trust what people are saying in such a new sector, though.
Trust is exactly, you've just nailed what I wanted to say there is, does it not, we know what agency world is like, many people do. We've talked about it many times. Does it not worry you, not that it should, there's more things to worry about, that there will be agencies who are trying to capitalise on this, just doing the wrong things because they see it's murky in the new sense.
The best way that I can try and summarise the whole thing, both paid and organic, is what's going to happen with relation to AI is it's going to allow your agency to improve process and improve efficiencies in the work that they've been delivering for quite a number of years, to the point where you'll be able to increase your alignment with how users are now using the internet, not just Google. And that efficiency will translate across paid and organic.
Yeah.
So what you're going to gain, or what your brand or business is going to gain through the impact of AI, is more efficacy, because you're going to be able to spend more time in more places.
Yeah.
Whereas the cost base for traditional 5, 6, 7 year ago approach only meant that you could afford within reason to be seen, heard on certain platforms at any one time. Whereas what's going to happen in the next 12, 18 months is processes and efficiency is going to allow for brands to align themselves with the user journey that is 2025, 26, 27's user journey.
Yeah. Which, as we know, is all-encompassing, complex.
It's a playground.
Multifaceted, yeah.
It's a playground, and information is commoditized. So what's going to resonate? Brand, connection, the elements that AI can't generate.
But to get there,
AI can't generate an experience, a human experience.
No.
But what that means is AI can allow your agency and your brand and your marketing team to create a human experience, because the things that AI can do is free time to do the right things and spend time in the right areas.
Which is where we can excel.
Yeah. It's very exciting. I don't know whether you can tell, but I'm very excited.
Gold mine of information right there for you all. Should we do this or that?
Yes.
I mean, it's very organic versus paid, but let's just go with it. We've got some here. Is it better to spend time building a newsletter or run lead gen ads? So I'm guessing this is for the purposes of lists that you own, first party lists. So spend the time building a newsletter, or, and you can't say both.
It comes down to budget and resource, doesn't it? It ties into what we were just saying there, like creating a campaign and running paid is probably more time efficient.
But also know your audience. What's your audience going to be more susceptible to?
Well, yeah, there is that. That's a massive consideration as well. And I think the time investment to be successful with a newsletter is high.
Yeah.
But the quality will probably be better long term.
Investment in that, being on that list.
Yeah.
I like that.
What I would say is, if you're going to go down the newsletter route, use paid to support your content, to increase your subscribers.
Yeah.
And think about it that way. Rather than thinking about fast gains, direct response, why not think, I'm going to invest in creating process and structure to develop a newsletter that provides value for my audience. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to elevate my content through paid.
Yeah.
And that
brings it back. If you had to pick one, I'm just reading what's in front of me here. Would you invest in organic search or paid search ads?
I can't not say both to that. What I would do is probably assess, if you're starting from scratch, both. If you've got an existing setup, I would assess where your spend is going on paid and think about whether you could, if you're running brand, for example, reduce that
Yeah.
and invest the reduction in spend into organic. But I think it's both important. And I think organic is going to become more important. So I would probably, if you held a gun to my head and said which one, I'd probably say organic.
I'm not going to ask you this because I'm not interested. Final one. Should you focus on user-generated content or polished branded campaigns? Remember, you can't say both.
I think you should focus on developing and delivering the best campaigns that you can with the time and resource that you've got available. And if it's good enough, which it should be if you put in the time in, user-generated content will come off the back of it.
Yeah. But I can see it happening the other way around as well.
I mean, you're not going to
Depends where you are.
You're not going to create an asset from... Oh, it's unlikely that you're going to have a piece of user-generated content that turns into an asset, but you could do it. You can do it the other way around.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Do you want me to send Heidelberg then?